What if I told you that the average British worker is now poorer than they were 15 years ago, despite working harder than ever? Sounds unbelievable, right? But it's true. Since 2008, real wages in the UK have barely moved, while the price of everything, from food to fuel, has skyrocketed. People are working full-time jobs and still can't afford to heat their homes or fill their fridges. Even middle-income families are turning to food banks. This isn't a glitch in the system. This is the system. 1 in 5 families now lives in fuel poverty. Public services are crumbling. Nurses are striking. Rent is out of control. And while ordinary people are counting pennies, the rich keep stacking billions, paying less in taxes than you might in a single paycheck. So how did it get this bad? And more importantly, why does no one in power seem to care? In this video, we're diving deep into 10 shocking reasons why Britain is getting poorer every single day. We're talking about stagnant wages, sky-high energy bills, a broken housing market, and much more. Some of these truths might make you angry, others might leave you speechless, but every single one will open your eyes. Because this isn't just about economics, it's about your future, your family, your freedom. So stay with us till the end, because what you're about to see will change the way you think about Britain forever. Number 1. Stagnant wages in a rising cost economy. Over the past 15 years, the average British worker has seen little to no growth in real wages. While salaries might look slightly higher on paper, the reality is that these increases have barely kept up with inflation, and in many cases, they've fallen behind. What does that mean for the average household? Simply put, you're earning the same, but spending more just to survive. The cost of groceries, transportation, and basic utilities has surged, but paychecks remain frozen. A report by the Resolution Foundation found that UK wage growth was among the worst in the developed world after the 2008 financial crash. Workers are essentially working harder or longer, but seeing no improvement in their standard of living. This isn't just a number on a chart, it's the reason people are cutting meals, skipping social activities, or taking on debt just to make it to payday. Even professionals, teachers, nurses, and civil servants are being pushed to the edge. Many are now forced to rely on second jobs, or worse, food banks. Meanwhile, large corporations continue to post record-breaking profits. CEOs enjoy massive bonuses. Shareholders celebrate higher dividends, yet the people who keep the system running are told to be patient. Politicians talk about growth, but it's a growth that doesn't trickle down. It's a growth that benefits the few, while the rest fall further behind. Young people entering the job market are especially impacted. Their wages are often lower than their parents were at the same age, despite being more educated. The promise that education equals a better life is being shattered. This silent crisis, wages not rising with living costs, is one of the most damaging trends facing Britain today. It chips away at dignity, opportunity, and the very idea of economic progress. Number 2. Skyrocketing energy bills. Across the UK, energy bills have exploded, and for millions of households, this is no longer just an inconvenience, it's a daily survival challenge. Over the past 2 years, prices for gas and electricity have more than doubled, and in some regions, even tripled. The situation is so extreme that families are being forced to choose between heating their homes or feeding their children. During the harsh winter months, many households went without adequate heat. Pensioners layered up indoors. Children wore coats to bed. This isn't hyperbole. It's reality for a growing number of people. A study by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation found that 1 in 5 UK families experience fuel poverty, where the cost of heating consumes a disproportionate share of their income. Meanwhile, energy companies like British Gas and Shell have posted multi-billion-pound profits. Their executives take home hefty bonuses, while their customers shiver in cold flats. This extreme divide between profit and poverty is one of the starkest symbols of Britain's economic failure. Government interventions, like temporary energy price caps or one-off rebates, have been too little, too late. These are band-aids on a gaping wound. They don't address the core issue, a privatised energy sector that prioritises shareholder returns over national welfare. Rural households are hit even harder. They often rely on more expensive heating oil or are disconnected from gas grids altogether. Renters in poorly insulated homes face massive bills because landlords have no obligation to improve energy efficiency. This energy crisis is not just a spike in numbers, it's a daily weight on millions of shoulders. It drives stress, worsens health, and deepens financial instability. And while politicians bicker, the meter keeps running. Number 3, a broken housing market. Britain's housing market is no longer just unfair, it's fundamentally broken. For millions, owning a home has become a distant dream, while renting has turned into a financial nightmare. Average house prices have soared to over 8 times the average salary in many regions, making it nearly impossible for first-time buyers to get on the property ladder. Even if someone manages to scrape together a deposit, they're often greeted with unaffordable mortgage rates, strict lending criteria, and constant fear of interest rate hikes. For renters, the situation is equally bleak. Monthly rents in cities like London, Manchester, and Bristol have skyrocketed, often eating up more than half of a person's income. This crisis doesn't only affect the young. Families are being forced into cramped flats, while older generations struggle to downsize due to lack of suitable housing. Social housing, once a pillar of security, has been neglected for decades. Councils have sold off properties without replacing them, creating enormous waiting lists and pushing vulnerable people into unstable private rentals. Landlords, especially those with multiple properties, often benefit from generous tax breaks, while tenants face rising rents, poor maintenance, and zero accountability. Many renters endure unsafe living conditions, mold, leaks, broken heating, with little recourse for justice. Homelessness is also on the rise. People are living in temporary accommodation for years. Families are being placed in B&Bs and hostels, and rough sleeping is again becoming a common sight on city streets. Despite all this, the government continues to prioritise property investors and developers over working families. Luxury flats sit empty as long-term homes are converted into short-term holiday lets. Entire communities are being priced out of their own neighbourhoods. This is not just a housing shortage, it's a housing failure. A system designed to generate wealth for the few is leaving millions unstable, overburdened, and without hope of a secure home. Number 4. NHS underfunding and healthcare crisis. The National Health Service, once a symbol of national pride, is now under unprecedented strain. Hospitals are overcrowded, waiting lists are record-breaking, and staff are overworked and underpaid. What was meant to be a universal safety net has become a system many people can no longer rely on when they need it most. Currently, more than 7 million people are waiting for routine treatments. Some wait over a year for surgeries, while others spend hours in A&E just to be seen. Ambulance delays are now so severe that in some emergencies, patients die before help arrives. This isn't just inefficiency, it's a systemic collapse fueled by chronic underfunding. Doctors and nurses are leaving the NHS in large numbers, citing burnout, low morale, and inadequate pay. Many who remain are doing the work of 2 or 3 people, stretched beyond their limits. Junior doctors have gone on strike, not only for better wages, but also for safe staffing levels that allow them to deliver quality care. General practitioners are facing similar pressure. Appointments are harder to get, often booked weeks in advance, leaving patients to turn to private alternatives, if they can afford it. This creates a 2-tier system where the wealthy get treated and everyone else waits and worries. Mental health services are even worse off. Long waiting times and staff shortages mean countless individuals face crises without support. Young people, in particular, are being failed at a critical time in their development, worsening issues like anxiety, depression, and self-harm. Despite this, funding increases have lagged behind demand. Politicians promise reforms, but what the NHS needs is sustained investment, workforce retention, and modern infrastructure. Instead, it gets temporary fixes and public relations campaigns. This healthcare crisis is not just about the system, it's about people. Every delayed scan, every missed diagnosis, every cancelled operation is a human life affected. When healthcare becomes unreliable, it doesn't just reflect a broken system, it reflects a nation in decline. Number 5. Decline in public education. Funding. Britain's schools are facing a quiet emergency. Classrooms are overcrowded, resources are stretched thin, and dedicated teachers are leaving the profession at alarming rates. The cause? Years of declining public education funding that have left the nation's children with less support, fewer opportunities, and growing inequality. Across the country, head teachers are making impossible choices, cutting staff, eliminating enrichment programs, and reducing support services just to balance their budgets. Many schools can't afford basic supplies like textbooks, paper, or functioning computers. Some have resorted to asking parents for donations to keep the lights on. Children from low-income backgrounds are hit the hardest. Schools in disadvantaged areas face larger class sizes, higher needs, and fewer teaching assistants, yet often receive less per-pupil funding than their wealthier counterparts. This widens the gap in achievement and locks kids into a cycle of poverty before they even reach adulthood. The situation is especially dire for students with special educational needs. Many go without proper support because schools simply don't have the funding or staff required to meet their needs. Waiting lists for assessments and support services can stretch for months, even years, leaving vulnerable students behind. Teachers are exhausted, they are underpaid, undervalued, and expected to do more with less. Many work evenings and weekends, not just to plan lessons, but to raise funds, manage behavioural crises, or fill in for missing staff. As more leave the profession, schools face chronic shortages, especially in core subjects like maths and science. The government's promises of levelling up education have not translated into action. Temporary funding boosts don't reverse a decade of cuts. What's needed is a long-term investment in schools, teachers, and students. An underfunded education system doesn't just hurt individuals, it undermines the future of the entire nation. When schools fail to provide a foundation, society pays the price in lost potential, lower productivity, and deeper social divides. Number 6. Inflation crushing. Everyday spending. Across the UK, everyday spending has become a struggle. Inflation isn't just a headline, it's something people feel in their shopping trolleys, on their energy bills, and at the petrol pump. Over the past 3 years, the cost of basic necessities like food, toiletries, and household items has increased at a pace faster than wages, leaving families constantly falling behind. Staples like milk, bread, eggs, and vegetables have seen price hikes of 20% to 40%, turning weekly grocery trips into a financial burden. For many low-income households, this means cutting portion sizes, skipping meals, or relying on food banks to feed their children. Inflation has made what used to be affordable now feel luxurious. Transport is no better. Commuters face higher train fares, bus ticket prices, and fuel costs, making it more expensive just to get to work. Parents are forced to choose between paying for school uniforms or school lunches. Every pound must stretch further, but there's less and less to stretch. Businesses have responded by shrinking product sizes while keeping prices the same, a tactic known as shrinkflation. A pack of crisps, a bottle of juice, a box of cereal. Many now contain less than they did a year ago, but cost even more. It's a quiet squeeze on consumers that's often overlooked. Meanwhile, financial support from the government has not kept pace. Universal credit adjustments lag behind inflation, meaning the most vulnerable receive less real support year after year. One-time cost of living payments help momentarily, but don't address the systemic pressure on household budgets. What's more alarming is how normal this has become. Struggling to afford basics is now part of daily life for millions. Families that once lived comfortably are now scrutinizing every receipt, cutting non-essential spending to survive. This constant erosion of purchasing power is a slow economic bleed. It shrinks opportunity, increases stress, and undermines confidence in the future. When even the basics become unaffordable, the cost isn't just financial, it's social, emotional, and deeply personal. Number 7. Precarious job market and gig economy exploitation. Britain's job market might look stable on paper, but underneath lies a growing crisis of job insecurity and exploitation. While unemployment rates may appear low, many of those counted as employed are trapped in unstable, low-paid gig work with little to no protection. This shift has created a new working class, one that's always working, but never secure. From delivery drivers and warehouse packers to freelancers and zero-hour contract staff, more and more people are earning their living through jobs that offer no sick pay, no pension, no guaranteed hours, and sometimes not even minimum wage. These roles are often celebrated for their flexibility, but for most workers, they bring uncertainty, stress, and exhaustion. Gig platforms like Uber, Deliveroo, and Amazon Flex claim to empower workers, but the reality is that these companies use loopholes to avoid employment responsibilities. Workers are classified as self-employed, stripping them of legal rights. If someone gets sick, injured, or pregnant, they're on their own. There's no safety net, no fallback, just a disappearing paycheck. 0-hour contracts are another form of exploitation. Workers can be scheduled for a full week or none at all. They live in constant suspense, not knowing if they'll earn enough to pay the rent or buy groceries. Planning for the future becomes impossible when your income depends on someone else's whim. Wages in these jobs often fall below living standards, especially when accounting for costs like fuel, equipment, or travel. Some workers find themselves working 10 to 12 hours a day just to scrape by. And because these jobs are spread across different employers or apps, many workers aren't protected by unions or workplace representation. This shift away from stable employment to precarious labour reflects a broader economic trend. Profits are protected, while people are treated as disposable. Britain's working poor are no longer unemployed. They're chronically underemployed, and the system is built to keep it that way. Number 8. Weak national investment in innovation and industry. Britain's economic backbone, its industrial and innovation sectors, has been slowly eroded over decades. Unlike countries that have invested heavily in technology, infrastructure, and advanced manufacturing, the UK has taken a path of privatisation, outsourcing, and disinvestment. The result is a nation falling behind in the global race for innovation, job creation, and economic resilience. Where once Britain was a leader in engineering, manufacturing, and scientific research, it now relies heavily on imported goods and foreign-owned companies to drive economic activity. Iconic factories have closed, skilled jobs have vanished, and entire communities that once thrived on local industry have been left with nothing but warehouses and call centres. Public spending on research and development R&D has remained stubbornly low compared to other developed nations. Countries like Germany, South Korea, and the Netherlands have made bold investments in green technology, robotics, and AI, while the UK continues to underfund universities, research institutions, and innovation hubs. Instead of building the industries of the future, Britain has focused on financial services, property speculation, and short-term profits. This economic model benefits a small elite, but leaves the wider workforce with fewer opportunities and lower quality jobs. Startups struggle to scale, and ambitious entrepreneurs often head abroad where investment ecosystems are stronger. Infrastructure development has also suffered. Projects are announced with fanfare, then delayed, downsized, or scrapped. The failure to deliver high-speed rail, modern ports, and renewable energy networks has left the UK lagging in productivity and regional competitiveness. The lack of industrial strategy isn't just a policy failure, it's an economic risk. Without a clear vision for national growth, Britain is vulnerable to supply chain shocks, foreign takeovers, and technological stagnation. Future prosperity depends on building, making, and inventing, not just trading and consuming. A thriving nation needs industries that offer stable jobs, global competitiveness, and sustainable growth. Right now, Britain is missing all three. Number 9. Wealth inequality and tax avoidance. Britain has become a nation where the rich keep getting richer, and the rest are left to fight over the scraps. Wealth inequality is now at its highest level in generations. The richest 1% hold more wealth than 70% of the population combined, and this divide continues to widen, not by accident, but by design. One of the most damaging enablers of this inequality is tax avoidance. While ordinary workers are taxed directly through pay, many of the wealthiest individuals and corporations use loopholes, offshore trusts, and shell companies to minimize or completely avoid paying tax. This isn't illegal in most cases. It's simply allowed to happen. Major corporations like Amazon, Google, and Starbucks have faced scrutiny for paying less tax in the UK than a small local business. Wealthy individuals employ elite accountants to hide assets and shift income through complex financial structures that the average person couldn't dream of accessing. The result is a system where nurses, teachers, and cleaners are taxed more proportionally than hedge fund managers and landlords. This not only feels unjust, it actually drains billions from public services, making it harder to fund schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. Successive governments have promised to tackle this issue, but meaningful reform has been avoided or watered down. Powerful lobbying interests and political donors make sure the rules never change in ways that would harm the elite. Meanwhile, HMRC faces budget cuts, limiting its ability to investigate large-scale tax evasion while focusing more on small errors made by ordinary taxpayers. This broken tax system feeds resentment and destroys trust. People begin to ask, why should I pay my fair share when billionaires contribute less than bus drivers? When wealth grows without effort and the working poor bear the nation's burdens, democracy and social cohesion begin to erode. An economy built on equality, fairness, and shared responsibility isn't just morally right, it's economically smarter. But right now, Britain's tax system rewards accumulated wealth and punishes productive labour. Number 10. Austerity-driven public service cuts. For over a decade, austerity policies have reshaped Britain, and not for the better. Under the banner of fiscal responsibility, the government slashed spending across nearly every area of public life. These cuts weren't minor trims, they were deep, sweeping reductions that have left essential services hollowed out and communities across the country struggling to cope. Libraries have shut down in record numbers, turning once vibrant community hubs into boarded-up buildings. Youth centres, vital for keeping young people engaged and safe, have disappeared. Local councils, forced to operate with drastically reduced budgets, have had to eliminate non-essential services, sell public assets, and cut staff at every level. Transport services in many rural and low-income areas have been reduced or eliminated entirely. Buses no longer run on time, or at all. Roads fall into disrepair. Public toilets are closed. Services that once formed the backbone of daily life now feel like luxuries of the past. The impact on social care has been catastrophic. Elderly people are waiting weeks, sometimes months, for basic support like home visits, mobility help, or mental health services. Disabled individuals often face bureaucratic hurdles just to access the minimum support they need to live independently. What makes this even more painful is that these cuts have not been evenly distributed. Poorer regions, already vulnerable, have suffered the worst losses. The north of England, parts of Wales, and working-class communities across the UK have been left with fewer resources, less representation, and rising desperation. Public sector workers, social workers, refuse collectors, park wardens have seen their workloads increase and wages stagnate. The result is burnout, inefficiency, and service collapse in many areas. Yet these are the services that hold communities together. Austerity didn't balance the books. It undermined the nation's foundation. When governments choose to shrink the public realm, inequality grows, trust erodes, and hope vanishes. The cuts may not make headlines every day, but their impact is everywhere, in empty libraries, uncollected bins, closed youth clubs, and the quiet decay of public life. Britain isn't collapsing overnight, but it is eroding, quietly, persistently, and visibly. The signs are everywhere. Empty shelves in supermarkets, people riding freezing buses to avoid heating their homes, children learning in underfunded classrooms, and working adults lining up at food banks. These aren't isolated stories. They're everyday experiences for millions. What's most troubling is how normalised this decay has become. People adapt. They get used to less. Lower expectations become the new standard. And while the majority tightens their belts, a powerful few continue to benefit, hoarding wealth, dodging taxes, influencing policy, and remaining comfortably distant from the chaos below. This isn't just a tale of economic mismanagement. It's a reflection of where national priorities lie. Decisions made in boardrooms and parliament are not neutral. They shape lives. When housing becomes an investment instead of a right, when education becomes a privilege instead of a pathway, when healthcare waits become deadly, the social contract is broken. The effects are generational. A child growing up in a cold, overcrowded flat without access to proper nutrition, support, or opportunity isn't just one person slipping through the cracks. It's the country losing potential, shrinking its future, and deepening its own decline. There's no single cause, but a clear pattern: political inaction, corporate greed, and structural inequality all working hand in hand. While slogans are shouted from podiums, the lived reality tells a different story. One of survival, sacrifice, and silence. Britain isn't poor by accident. It's being managed into poverty by choice. A different outcome is possible, but not without first seeing this crisis for what it truly is: a nation being slowly dismantled while most of those in charge look the other way. If this video opened your eyes, tell us which point hit you the hardest. We read every comment. We put hours into every story. So if you want more truth like this, subscribe now. It's just one click, but it means everything to us.